My name is Thomas Reed. I am 76 years old now, and I live in a house that is far too quiet for one man. Every morning, I make coffee for one and listen to the clock. It is strange how loud time becomes when you have nothing left to chase. For most of my life, I thought I was a good man. I worked hard, paid the bills, kept food on the table, and gave my family a comfortable life. People called me dependable. I was proud of that. Maybe too proud, because somewhere along the way, I started believing that being useful was the same as being loving.
My wife,
Margaret saw the truth before I did. She would say, "Thomas, dinner is ready." I would answer, "I'll be there in 10 minutes." But 10 minutes became 30. 30 became an hour. By the time I came to the kitchen, the children had eaten, Margaret had cleaned the plates, and my chair sat cold and empty. At first, she waited. Then she stopped waiting. People do not stop loving you all at once. First, they stop expecting you. Then they slowly learn how to live without you. Emily was 7, full of questions. Michael was 5, quiet and gentle. They used to run to me when I came home. Most nights I said, "Not now, buddy. Daddy's tired." Children do not understand neglect. They only learn how to stop asking. One evening, Margaret said, "Thomas, one day they won't ask anymore." I laughed and said, "They're kids. They'll be fine." That sentence has punished me for almost 40 years. Yes, they became fine, but they became fine without me. I kept saying, just a few more years, more promotion, more savings, more security, more future. But ambition is a hungry thing. It never says enough. At work, I felt important. At home, my family needed presence. But presence was harder, so I hid inside responsibility. I missed school plays, baseball games, birthdays, and simple dinners. Each time I apologized. Each time they forgave me. Each time I repeated the same mistake. That is how a family breaks. Not always with betrayal, sometimes with repetition. The same empty chair, the same late apology, the same broken promise. Until one day, nobody believes the promise anymore. And the saddest part is I did not notice when they stopped believing me. I was still coming home every night. But slowly, my place inside that home was disappearing. By the time I looked up, my family had already learned how to smile without me. The first time I realized I was losing my family, it was not during a fight. It happened on an ordinary evening. I finished work early for the first time in months. On the way home, I bought flowers for Margaret and cookies for the children. I imagined their surprise. I imagined Emily and Michael running toward me like they used to. But when I opened the door, I heard laughter from the kitchen. Warm laughter. The kind that fills a house and makes it feel alive. Margaret was sitting with Emily and Michael. Emily was telling a story. Michael was laughing, and Margaret was smiling in a way I had not seen in years. They looked peaceful, happy, complete. And I stood outside that happiness like a stranger. Margaret saw me first. Her smile became careful. Emily said, "Hi, Dad." Michael nodded. "Hey," not Daddy, not excitement, just polite greetings, like I was a guest. I placed the flowers on the counter and said, "I thought I'd come home early." Margaret said, "That's nice." Two words that hurt more than anger. I sat at the table, but I could feel the distance. They had jokes I did not understand, stories I had missed, and a rhythm without me. I asked about school and baseball. They gave small answers. Then silence, the silence of people who no longer know how to include you. After dinner, I told Margaret, "They seem different." She looked at me and said, "What did you expect?" She was simply telling the truth. That night, I passed Emily's room. She was laughing on the phone. I almost knocked, but I did not. The truth was, I was afraid she would not want to talk. So I walked away. That is what I did best. I walked away from uncomfortable moments and called it being busy. But distance does not stay small forever. A quiet child becomes a silent teenager. A disappointed wife becomes a woman who stops explaining her pain. And soon, the home I thought I was protecting became a place where I no longer belonged. Years passed. Emily became a teenager. Michael grew taller than me. Margaret became quieter. Our home still looked beautiful from outside, but inside, we were no longer a family moving together. We were people sharing an address. I paid for vacations, college savings, gifts, and cars. I gave them everything I thought a father was supposed to give. Everything except myself. One night, Michael had a championship game. Margaret reminded me 3 times. "Thomas, this one matters to him. I promised I would be there." And I meant it. But that afternoon, work needed me again. I looked at the clock. The game was starting. I told myself I would make the second half. Then, I told myself I would make the end. By the time I arrived, the parking lot was almost empty. The game was over. Michael was walking toward the car with Margaret. His uniform was dirty. His face was serious. I asked, "How did it go?" He said, "We won." I smiled. "That's great, son." He looked down and said, "I hit the winning run." For half a second, I felt proud, then ashamed. Because I had missed it, I said, "I'm sorry. Work got complicated." He nodded. That nod hurt more than any argument. It was not forgiveness, it was surrender. On the ride home, nobody spoke. After that, Michael stopped asking me to practice. Emily stopped asking me to attend school events. Margaret stopped putting my plate on the table. She left food in the microwave instead. That was when I should have woken up, but I did not. I kept saying, "Once things calm down, I'll fix it." But things never calm down for a man who keeps choosing noise. That night, I told myself Michael would forget. But children do not forget the empty seats in the moments that mattered most. They may grow older. Some endings do not slam the door. They close it gently. That was how my marriage ended. Not with screaming, not with betrayal, not with one dramatic night. It ended slowly, through thousands of small disappointments. Margaret and I became good at functioning. We paid bills, attended graduations, hosted holidays, and smiled in photographs. But when the guests left, there was nothing between us except history. One evening, after Michael left for college, Margaret asked if we could talk. I remember feeling annoyed. I had just sat down after a long day. I wanted quiet. I wanted not to be needed. She sat across from me, hands folded in her lap. She looked tired. Not old, just tired from years of carrying things alone. She said, "Thomas, I don't hate you." Then she said, "But I stopped waiting for you a long time ago." I stared at her. She continued, "I waited for dinner, weekends, vacations, retirement. Then I realized I was spending my life waiting for a man who was always somewhere else." I said, "I did everything for this family." She nodded. "Yes, you provided for us, but you did not live with us." That sentence stripped away every excuse I had. I wanted to talk about bills, sacrifices, and the life I had built. But suddenly, all those things felt small, because she was right. I had built a comfortable life, but I had not shared it. She said, "I have been lonely inside this marriage for years." I whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I did, Thomas. Many times. You just called it complaining." That was the moment I saw myself clearly. Not as the hard-working husband I imagined, but as the man who made his wife feel guilty for needing love. We separated quietly. Emily cried. Michael was silent. I think he had expected it. That hurt too. When your children are not surprised by your divorce, it means they watched the marriage die long before you admitted it. Now, at 76, I understand what I was too proud to see. A family does not always leave in one dramatic moment. Sometimes they leave while still sitting across from you at dinner. Sometimes they leave while still answering your calls. Sometimes they leave emotionally, long before they walk out the door. And when that happens, the silence they leave behind becomes louder than any argument. For years, my family asked me one simple question in 100 different ways. "Do you see me?" Margaret asked when she said dinner was ready. Emily asked when she looked into the audience at school. Michael asked when he held a baseball glove by the door. And I answered with absence. So if you are listening after work or scrolling on your phone while your family sits nearby, please hear me. Do not mistake their patience for permanence. Your family may still save you a seat today, but one day they may stop asking. Not because they stopped loving you, but because asking began to hurt too much. I know bills are real. Responsibility is heavy. I am not telling you to quit your job. I am telling you not to give your family only what is left of you. Do not give your best attention to meetings and your tired silence to the people who love you. Because one day the career will end. The applause will fade. The phone will stop ringing. And you will sit in the life you chose. Make sure it is a life with people in it. So before you say, "I'll fix it later," remember this. Later is where many families go to die quietly. The golden truth of this story is that success means nothing if the people you love learn how to live without you. Money can bring comfort, but it cannot replace presence. A paid-off house can still feel empty. A career can earn respect, but not closeness. Do not wait for retirement to become gentle. Do not wait until your family stops asking for your time. Later is not a promise. Later is a thief dressed like hope. Be present now. Listen now. Love now. Apologize now. Come home now. Because one day the house will become quiet, and when it does, you will not wish you had worked one more hour. You will wish you had sat at the table while there was still a chair waiting for you. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to The Golden Truth for more honest life lessons and hard-earned wisdom.